Hey, Chris here. All right, so we're going to recreate AC/DC's tone from Back in Black in Amplitube CS. So Amplitube CS is the free version. We're going to start with the amp. Okay, so I'm going to click on the amp. Now over here, use British Tube Lead 1. So on this one, I'm just going to go to 10. So we're going to take the gain and the volume to 10. Okay. So that is going to get our distortion. I'm going to add a noise gate. Noise gates obviously eliminate noise. We're just going to turn down the release down to 0 and put the threshold to noon. That'll get you to a setting that should work. So we're going to save it. Just call it Back in Black. All right. And that is step 1. All right. Step 2, let's take a look at the microphones. Okay, so there's only 3 microphones in Amplitube CS that you can choose from. And for this one, I'm actually not going to use the 57, so I'll mute it. And I'm going to take the room mics and make them super wide. And then I'm going to pan this cabinet to the right because in the recording it sounds like there are 2 players. So to get a left speaker, we're going to click right here and we'll do the same thing. Mute the 57 and then pan this one to the left. And take the room microphones and make them as wide as possible. So with the microphone, I like just to put it a little off center. And that generally gets pretty close to the sound that I like. All right, so step 3, let's add in some EQ. I like to put an EQ before the amp and after the amp. So before the amp, we're going to use an EQ pedal. There's only one. It's called the 7-band graphic. So it sounds pretty bright, and in order to hear it a little bit better, what you need to do is turn down the bass a little bit. So 400 and 200, the low mids, and then 100, I'm going to turn that down quite a bit too. So these settings right here should get you in the ballpark. It's not going to be exact. And I'm going to mimic that on the bass or on the amp. So we'll turn on the bass, we'll turn up the treble, and we'll turn up the presence, which affects the treble also. Okay. So next thing I want to do, I'm going to add in a rack unit. What a rack unit does, uh, it's it's similar to the pedals where you can add in effects and EQ to the sound after it's captured by the microphone. So you can actually put a rack unit after each cabinet. So here I'll put an EQ after each of the cabinets. So I want to do a similar thing. I'm going to turn down the bass, maybe scoop a little bit of the high mids and get some treble. Okay, so we're going to pull these frequencies down. Now these ones are below the low E string. So the low E string is about 82 hertz. So this shouldn't really matter all that much. So right about here is when I'm turning down the bass just to get some more clarity. So we're going to put these frequencies kind of in between the 2 lines. Let's go to the mids. From the low mid to the mid, we'll bring those down to -2, -3, just somewhere in there. That's fine. Then about in the upper mids, around 1K, I'm going to scoop it just a little bit to add some clarity. And then when we get to the treble frequencies, let's boost that similar frequency of 2.5 and 3.2. So we'll get a little bit more presence right there. And then I like to pull down 20K and 16K a little bit. Okay. So let's copy and paste these over to the other one. We'll make some adjustments. Okay, so on this other speaker, I'm actually just going to turn down all of these bass frequencies. Just why not? Probably won't make too much of a difference, but we want both the left and right channels to sound different, or else you'll get what's called a big mono sound. If you watch Rick Beato's videos, he talks about that. Okay, so for the mid, I'm actually going to pull down some of the low mids and boost these upper mids so that it's just a little bit different than the other channel. Okay. So we'll just make some adjustments here. Then let's bring up 1.25K and maybe 1.6 a little bit. And then for the treble frequencies, we'll kind of smooth these out a little bit. All right. So that's pretty much all I have to do for the frequencies. And the last thing we want to do is add a slight delay to one of the speakers. Okay, so real quick, the reason why I'm adding a slight delay is because it sounds, the original song sounds double tracked to me. So two players are playing the exact same thing. And we kind of want to mimic that effect with just one player. So I found the way that you can do that is by adding a delay to just one channel. Okay, so we're gonna use a really short delay, make sure the BPM is off, and set to something like 10 milliseconds. Okay. So the way you do this is you only want one delay to sound. So that means you turn the feedback to 0. And let's turn the filter all the way up. We don't want to filter anything. And then you turn the mix to maximum. So what this does is the mix controls how much of the original signal comes through, which is the very first pick, and then a delay, the pedal causes a second sound to occur after. So what we want is that second sound, the repeat signal to come through. And that should be pretty much it. So I'm going to leave the level there, and here's what it sounds like.